Hi, my name is Marla Lamont, and I serve as the current board chair for Play Like a Girl. We'd like to welcome you to our final Play Like a Girl live event in an amazing series on inspirational and powerful women in our community. Today we have an exciting special guest, Portia Archer, who will discuss her path from playing basketball as a young girl to running a basketball league. But first, we do have a few housekeeping items we'd like you to consider. Could you add your first and last name to the screen? Turn your videos on. We would love to see your beautiful smiles. Stay muted until invited to speak. And please add positive comments and questions to the chat box. And please tag us on social media using @IPlayLikeAGirl and hashtag #IPlayLikeAGirl. Thanks for joining us. We've had an amazing month with each and every one of you as we've celebrated and addressed topics like confidence, leadership, social justice, and more. The Play Like a Girl community has made our lead up to International Day of the Girl, which we're celebrating on October 11th, so much fun. To show our appreciation, we will be announcing a giveaway later in the program. But now I'd love for you to hear directly from one of our very special Play Like a Girl participants, Maria. Welcome, Maria. Maria, can you tell us your age, your favorite subject in school, and a story about one of your experiences with Play Like a Girl?
My name is Maria. My favorite subject in school is probably science. And one of the experience I've had with Play Like a Girl is we got to go to the Skyline Medical Center Hospital, and we had a lot of fun, and we had like a tour.
Great. Great. That sounds like a great experience. Thank you, Maria. If you want to help us inspire more girls like Maria and unlock limitless potential for the next generation, you can act now. Giving is easy. All you need to do is text "I Play Like a Girl" to 44-321. Thank you for joining us again. And now I'd like to introduce our moderator for today's session, our very own Play Like a Girl board member and Vice President of Sports Marketing for Wells Fargo, Sarah Toussaint. Sarah.
Hey everyone, I'm excited to be here tonight. I am thrilled to be chatting with Portia Archer in a little bit. One of the reasons why we started this live series was to lead up into the International Day of the Girl, which is on October 11th. We wanted to make this event a little bit more interactive, so we thought we'd start off actually by doing just maybe a little networking to start off with, so we get to know each other a little bit more for all the participants who are here, all the attendees who are here today, and then we'll chat with Portia, and then we'll open it back up for some Q&As, but hopefully using this moment to get to learn a little bit about who you are. So whether in the chat, would love to get a sense of who, if you can put your name in the chat, if you can put where you're from, and who, what brought you here, how'd you find out about today's program? And let's see, want to have a sense of who's here. And I'm not seeing anybody. Okay, let's see. I don't know if I can see the chat itself, but I see some familiar faces, and I'm glad you guys are here. You ladies are here. Portia is here. She's in the house. Excellent. She's in Nashville. Excellent. Let's see, Erica, Dana, Tina. Oh, I think we've got a gentleman here. We've got two. That's great. All are welcome. Excellent. All right, great. Well, oh, fantastic. So some folks have heard about Play Like a Girl through a variety of means. Excellent. Okay, Christy, Great. Well, we'll get started. So it is my joy to introduce Portia. We met a couple years ago at an event, and it feels like I've known her forever. And so I'm super thrilled for you all to get to know her a little better. So, as you may know, Portia was named the Chief Operating Officer for the NBA G League, which is the developmental league of the NBA. So she's literally a boss, a woman, and we'll talk more specifically about what she does in this role. Before joining the NBA, Portia was an executive. She held a number of executive positions, actually, in the broadcast media and cable space, and led a number of digital innovations for NBC Sports, for HBO, the BBC, and AOL. And we will dive into some of that a little later as well. So I want to share some highlights about Portia. 28 was like a phenomenal year for her. I would imagine many, every year is with her, but 2018 was fantastic. She received a number of really incredible honors, including being named Adweek's Most Powerful Woman in Sport. She was named a Sports Business Journal Game Changer, and then she was named a trustee of the Women Sports Foundation, which was founded by Billie Jean King, a tennis legend. Portia earned her MBA from Columbia Business School. Two of my favorite things about Portia is she's from Chicago, which is where I'm from, so we certainly bonded over that. But we also attended the University of Chicago. She studied public policy, as did I, so we feel so connected. But she's a go-getter, and so she just added economics to that degree. I was not that ambitious, but I would think so. Those are my two favorite things about Portia. I think Portia's favorite thing about Portia may be that she's the mom of two really cool girls. And so with that, would love to welcome Portia and get to have a little chat. Excellent.
Thank you. You didn't mention, Sarah, that in 2018 you were also an SDJ. That's okay.
Thanks, Portia. I appreciate that. This is about you today, but thank you. So I wanted to talk, or at least divide the conversation up into two segments. Young Portia, because we do have a couple of young girls on the chat today, and then
who are the young girls on the chat?
Let's see. And we've got Maria. I think she's somewhere in there. She was on earlier.
I don't see Maria, but I may not be able to see everyone.
Yeah, so Maria was on. Let's see. Yeah, and then we've got, I'm trying to take a look at some names. I can't see all the names, but we may have some college students on as well. So that said, Portia, when did you start playing sports? At what age?
Wow. From a very young age, I'm not going to be able to name, what age, but from a very young age, I feel like I've always played sports. I grew up in a family of three, as the youngest of three, and was always sort of trying to keep up with my siblings and was active, and my extended family lived nearby. I had a number of cousins who we were always playing together. So it, for as long as I can remember.
And then what sports was it? Obviously you're, at the NBA, the G League, was it only basketball, or did you play other sports?
No, when I was growing up, I played, when I was kind of with my family members, cousins and so forth, I played whatever we were up to as a group. So that could have been a tag football game or a softball or a pickup game of basketball, or, we would have our own kind of, block parties.
Yes.
And we do like track meets as a part of the block party. And I dabbled in roller skating, which probably technically isn't a sport, but
I feel like a girl, it is. So being from Chicago, did you play 16-inch softball or 12-inch softball?
I play 16.
Yes. And for those not from Chicago, the 16-inch softball, you don't play with a glove. It's a little soft. It's definitely softer than a traditional 12-inch, what you typically see in the rest of the country. But I have a quick story I'll add, even though I just said this is not about me. I grew up playing 16-inch softball, got to high school. I was like, I'm gonna try out for the softball team. Coach said, put on a mitt, and I said, what? But I still made it. I made the team. But I had to add that little story because I had no idea there was another softball besides 16-inch.
It's different. Yeah.
Is different. Yes, exactly. So sports were a big part of your life.
Yeah.
But I, being a University of Chicago student, you had to be pretty talented on the academic side of things. So how did you manage, being this talented athlete with your studies?
Well, to be honest, I was a more talented student than I was an athlete, or a basketball player. I actually visited a number of schools, had site visits, recruiting visits to a number of schools, and what I learned through my recruiting process is that Title IX is a regulation that basically tries to ensure that there is equity in the availability and the access and the opportunity for girls to play sports across all public institutions or schools. And what I learned during my recruiting process, I'd actually signed a letter of intent with a Power 5 university to play women's basketball, and I had gone to what has now evolved into EYBL, like Nike's youth camps, and it wasn't that at the time. It was called something else. It was called Best in the Country Camp, and then it evolved. So I participated in those camps, and there was a young girl who was much better than me, and because we would get our rankings coming out of camp every summer or portion of the summer that you participated. So she and I had been on a couple of circuits together, and she was better than I was, and that was great. And we would compete. And so we decided that we were going to go to, actually it was the University of Maryland. We were going to go together, and we were going to set the world on fire. And I definitely understood that I was her number 2. I totally got that. And so I signed a letter of intent. So did she, and she tore her ACL in her senior year. And then I discovered that 4-year scholarships aren't a real thing, that you could technically go to a school and not be there on scholarship for 4 years. So it was still sort of a beauty contest at some point if the university decided for whatever reason that they didn't want to renew your scholarship for the 2nd or the 3rd year. And I didn't fully understand that coming into the process, but my friend tore her ACL, and then it became apparent that, yeah, we'll keep you, we'll redshirt you, you don't know what's going to happen next year. It was sort of this vague certainty. And I thought, now she's better than me, like she's who she is, right? And it's clear to me that I'm not as talented as she is. And like they're doing this to her. So let me rethink this. So I immediately started to rethink what my options were. And I was a good student. And I thought, well, maybe I should go someplace where I can do that thing that I have a bit more control of. And I decided that I was not going to honor the letter of intent, and that I was going to go to a more academically focused university and a place where I could play and make an impact day one, because I enjoyed playing and wanted to be able to do that in my college experience. And that's how I don't want to say ended up, but that was part of my journey at the University of Chicago.
That was your backup school.
I mean,
technically,
it was a top school for, like, I knew that it was a top school, and I had applied. I just had signed this letter of, I thought I'm
Yeah.
not going to do that. I'm going to go here. And then when I saw how, you know, Title IX is loosely enforced and how that could become kind of tricky for me, I knew that, you know, first of all, I couldn't afford for it to be tricky.
Right.
So I needed to make some different choices.
Yeah. I think it worked out in the end. But so
It worked out.
So
It
you're,
worked out.
so you're at the
Yeah.
University of Chicago, which is a liberal arts, traditionally a liberal arts program. And you decided that you want to major in public policy and economics. Like, why did you decide those two majors?
Another story. So when I started at the University of Chicago, you don't have to declare a major. In fact, there's a core curriculum that all students are required to take, and it typically takes 2 years. So as I was going through my core, I came into the university and I didn't have to declare a major like you do at some schools. So I came in, was taking my core classes, and I actually thought I was going to be a doctor, as an MD. And I took my first class in OChem. So I was like, OMG, like, this is not for me. And part of that, I think, is intentional to help weed you out from the medical program. And part of that was kind of revelatory for me, like, this kind of isn't what I'm well suited for. And so my parents understand things in a certain way. So like pre-med, pre-law, like that made sense to, like, they could connect that with a future and with a job or a career. So when I decided I wanted to sort of not shift majors, because I didn't have to literally shift, but when I decided, like, yeah, you know, the med school thing, that's probably, I don't know if I want to be a doctor. And they were kind of like, well, what does that mean? What are you gonna do? And I really, I was good at sort of quant stuff. And so I thought, I'll do economics. And then my parents kind of couldn't understand that. They were like, what do you do with that? Are you going to be an economics professor? Like, how does that translate? So I tried to kind of explain and educate them that, you know, it's a liberal arts school and they teach you how to think and you can apply that anywhere. And they were kind of like, yeah, we don't get it. Are you sure you don't want to sort of go down this medical track? And then I started taking more classes in economics, or sorry, in public policy, because I was good at sort of quantitative stuff, but I didn't really like it. Like, it was kind of like dull and uninteresting, and like I could remember the formulas, but I kind of didn't know why they mattered. It's like, okay, supply and demand, F to the X equals, like, I could do it. I can plug and chug, but like, I don't enjoy it and I don't kind of get it really. So I started taking classes in public policy, and those were really interesting. And I joke that both business school and my public policy courses at the University of Chicago taught me what to think about. So like, University of Chicago taught me how to think, but then those courses in business school taught me what to think about. And so public policy taught me what to think about, and I really enjoyed that, and kind of pairing that with the, you know, the Socratic method that you sort of, you know, learn and study from in Chicago, married with that was a really good mix for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. We sound our thinking process sound pretty similar. So I completely understand that, totally. So before we transition from you know, college now to adulthood, as we kind of wrap a bow on young Portia's life, looking back, right? Because we've got.
What are you trying to say, Sarah?
No, Portia, you're going to be inspiring young girls like Maria, who was on, and others who are going to be watching. Either they're on Facebook Live or you know, they'll see this video.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting at. So, you know, what's a moment like you're most proud of looking back as, you know, at young Portia? Anywhere from, you know, 5 years old to, you know, 18.
That's a really, I don't know how, let me think about that. That I'm most proud of.
As you think about that, mine is being able to go from a 16-inch softball player to a 12-inch softball player.
Right, right.
Without any idea what she was getting into. I don't know if that bought you any.
I had a lot of great moments. You know, I had a lot of great moments growing up. You know, I think about how important my family was and my upbringing and how they really poured into me. Self-belief, self-confidence. They didn't, they were traditional, but they didn't kind of pigeonhole me into, well, girls just do this kind of thing. They were very traditional, but they didn't sort of have that kind of caste thinking.
Limitations, none.
Yeah, and I don't think that any of them would call themselves progressive in any way, but they didn't. So you know, when I think back, there are a couple of things that my upbringing allowed me to do and kind of go after that maybe stick out for the purposes of this discussion.
Okay.
One is I wanted to be like the head of the debate team, like that. That was something that I thought was cool, and I talked a lot. So, and my parents, that was okay. You know, I was just, you know, Portia, she talks a lot. And I asked a lot of questions. I was very curious, and I would drive my mother in particular crazy because she was traditional, and, you know, your little girl going, why, and why not, and what does that mean, and how come, or that it's at a certain point, it's kind of like, you know, kids should be seen and not heard, and shut up already. And I got some of that, but they also allowed me to pursue being the captain of my debate team and the captain of my basketball team. Like, both those things were cool, and they were proud of me for pursuing both. And I'm personally proud that I was able to, at that age, kind of recognize and understand that, you know, you can play in whatever lane you want to play in. You don't necessarily have to just be anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what sort of stands out.
Yeah. Well, maybe unbeknownst to you, you just kind of underscored our mission at Play Like a Girl. So thank you for that. Because for the girls and the moms, that'll be watching. So all right, let's transition. We're going to transition to adult Portia. So I shared a brief bio about you earlier, but I didn't mention that one of your first jobs out of college was in technology consulting. So how did that come about?
Another story. So I kind of didn't get it, Sarah. So when I joined Anderson, again, my family is very traditional, right? They are actually from the southern part of the U.S., and Erica knows a little bit about this story. So my mother is from Jackson, Mississippi, and my father is from Little Rock, Arkansas. And so, you know, traditional Black folk, right? From the South, their families migrated north, literally during the Great Migration. So part of me graduating, you know, it was kind of like a contract that when you graduate, you get a job. Like, and that's almost why you're going to school. It was kind of utilitarian. Now, when I got to U of C, I learned that, well, you just want to learn, and you go for the purpose of learning and things, but like, that's not how I showed up, right? So when I graduated, I understood that I needed to have employment after graduating. And we would call it a good job, right? So I understood that I needed to have a good job when I graduated, with benefits and all of those things, right? So when I went through the recruiting process at U of C, which was very robust. Everybody came to us. You kind of put your CV in a hat or a little file, and then like you get all these interviews. It was fantastic. And so I went through that process, and Anderson Consulting sold me on who they were, particularly as a brand. And I knew my parents would know that name. They would know Anderson because it was one of the big 8 at the time, tax and accounting firms. And so like they would get that. And so they sold me on who they were as a brand. I didn't quite get that I would learn to be a programmer.
Wow.
And successively a technology. I missed that. I know that they told me. I know that they did it. I missed it. I completely missed it. So I signed the offer. I took the summer off. I show up and they say, you need to go to St. Charles, Illinois, St. Chuck's. That's where we have our Anderson University. I go, great. I get down there, that you're going to be in a 10-week training program. Okay, great. You're going to learn how to program. And you'll be with a cohort of people who are computer science majors, IT majors. And I'm like, whoa, what? That's a lot. I'm not sure I can do that. And that's what I did. It was like drinking water through a fire hose. And I did not get it until I showed up at St. Chuck's. Like I did not get that that's what that meant to be a technology consultant, like that I had to computer program. I missed it. And so I went through that process. It was difficult. I learned a lot. My competitive juices were helpful because I knew I had to compete with these folks who had 4 years of computer science and IT. And my experience at that point from a liberal arts university studying economics and public policy was writing my papers on a Mac. Right? Like that was it. Like I didn't have, now we have smartphones and iPads and other devices, and my kids know how to code now, but I didn't have that. And so I showed up to compete with the other employees in my cohort for the 10-week program. And I just told myself that I'm going to get to the end. And it doesn't matter how we all got here. We're all here now.
That's right.
And so I was just focused on learning as much as I could, putting in the time, putting in the work, and coming out on the other end of it. So I graduated from the program, and then I got to participate with clients as a consultant. And then I was able to use those programming and development skills to begin to solve computer problems, technology problems, business problems for clients. And I had to do some computer programming along the way, but I tried to move out of that element of my role just as quickly as I could, which may lead to one of your other questions, but go ahead.
No, that's fine. I mean, so public policy and econ, now you're a computer programmer. Yeah, you're out of the stratosphere for me. But
it's different, right?
Yeah, very, very much so. And it's wild. It's, you're learning this in your early 20s. And now, like you said, your daughters who are, 11, 15, like can program, right? And, say with our organization, we do offer opportunities for our girls to participate in learning how to code and coding competitions. And I feel like that's another language, so I will move on. So you went from technology to AOL, but then how'd you go from technology to AOL to did you to sports? Like how'd that happen? And
so I had some stops in between.
Mm-hmm.
So after undergrad, I was at Anderson. And then as I mentioned, I was trying to figure out like this coding stuff is cool, but I'm trying to get to some other elements. I'm trying to sort of do more of the management consulting, the business consulting aspect. And Anderson had that. And I kept trying to, pivot into that part of the business. And I kept saying, no, we don't really hire people unless they have an MBA to do our management consulting. And I thought, okay, I'd actually worked at the business school at U of C, so I kind of got that. And then I thought, all right, so I can't do that until I do this. So I left Anderson. I spent time at a small software consultancy, Sylvan Software. And then I didn't have to do any coding. I ran a team and they did all of the coding. And I basically helped them launch their operations in the UK and go out and acquire new customers and help solve their problems through acquiring them as customers and selling them on our software, but not actually doing the coding. And so that was good for me. And it was also an environment that was a startup. I was like the 11th employee. And so they didn't have all of these sort of barriers. It didn't matter that I was Black. It didn't matter that I was young. It didn't matter that I was a woman. It was like, you can do that? Great. Let's put Porsha on it. You want to try that? You know, there are 11 people. We don't, you know, you don't have a lot of people to pick and choose and try to make these, you know, choices. So I was like, yeah, I can start the UK office and here's how, and you can do that. Great. Like literally it was very freeing and about as close to a meritocracy as I've ever actually experienced in my professional life. And two of the founders had their MBAs from Kellogg. And they said, you really need to think about going back to business school. And I said, that's what they told me at Anderson too. Okay, now I'm getting this from, you know, I'm hearing this from multiple sources. And I decided that, okay, I'm gonna go. And I did the part-time program at Northwestern for a year and was still working full-time at Sylvan. And I decided that I wanted to write a business plan and start a business while I was in my part-time program. And I did. I wrote a business plan and I started a small coffee bar, Mojava, right on 55th Street, right where the C bus rides, Sarah.
Oh, so this is not planned, like this is happening.
This is happening. And so I go out and I secure debenture funding and I get a small business loan and I throw my chips into the bag and I start this coffee bar. It was meant to be, I'm dating myself here, but it was meant to be a cyber cafe. Does anybody know what that is? All right, Erica, and is it Marla?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I have this technology background, right? So I'm gonna do this cyber cafe. It's gonna be on the campus of the University of Chicago. Students stay up late. I'm gonna make it 24 hours.
Wow.
It was awesome. And then I couldn't get any money, right? They were like, you're Black, you're young, you're a woman, and you're trying to do tech? No.
Mm.
So I rearranged it, you know, I rearranged it and it was just a coffee bar and I was able to raise the money. So I did that. I then applied to business school full-time, you know, to move from the part-time to the full-time. And I thought, I've been in Chicago a little while, maybe I should branch out a little bit. I applied to some other schools and I got in. And then I deferred my admission because I was running Mojava. And so after a year, they said, hey, listen, this is great. We'll hold your space, but we can't do it forever. Are you coming? And so I thought, okay, I don't want to take the GMATs again and go through all of this stuff. So I'm going to go. And I restructured my business. And I gave equity to 2 partners. And I went to Columbia. And I was literally back and forth every weekend because I was an entrepreneur. I was running a business. And so after business school, in fact, during the summer of my first and second year, I got an internship with Booz Allen, management consultant, in their media practice. And that's what sort of allowed me to pivot. Because a lot of times when you go to business school, you do find career changers. And that's part of the reason why you're going, so that you can shift the tenor or the nature of your career or try another field. And so that enabled me to kind of pivot and do that thing that they had told me at Anderson several years back that I couldn't do unless I had my MBA. So after doing that, then I joined Booz Allen full time, and then I consulted to media companies, cable companies, broadcast networks, and some digital companies. And then after that, I transitioned to AOL. So there was a bunch of stuff that happened between Anderson and AOL.
It's so wild that all these little choices that you made along the way, which, just kind of looking on paper, it's like, how'd you get from here to here? It all carries through. And as we could probably bring you on for probably 20 other sessions to talk about entrepreneurship, about coding, about being an athlete and taking those leadership skills. So people are here, they really want to know what's going on at basketball. So you just got named COO big time in February. Tell us about what that responsibility entails. And then this is a bit, mind you, COVID struck, but there was still a lot of conversation around basketball and what was happening on and off the court. So Portia, I'm sure you've got some stories about that. So let's start with, what does a COO of a basketball league do? We'll start with that one.
So I don't know exactly. I'm still learning that.
Okay.
I can tell you what I am tasked with doing in this unique time, but I don't know if that's what COOs do. And it doesn't feel like what I thought I would be doing in any case. So when I accepted the role in mid-January and successively joined in February versus what I'm doing 6 months later, those are all different things. So what I thought I was stepping into in January is very different from the actuality on the ground as I sit here in, September.
Yeah.
And Erica and I actually met during this sort of time, this unique time.
This is Erica Calhoun here?
Say it again.
Which Erica?
Erica Calhoun.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
Yeah. And so she knows, because we've had some of these conversations, like I'm still figuring this thing out. So I don't want to sit here and go, well, yes, this is what the COO, I'm figuring it out, but I can tell you what I am responsible for. And it is a whole host of things, including kind of all of the business operations areas that don't generate any revenue for the league, but that are basically expense-based.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the IT, all of the financial management, and people call that the P&L, all of the product development. We have websites, we have apps, and you can access us across a number of different devices. I'm missing a few other categories. The marketing. So all of those sort of non-revenue generating operational functions are a part of my remit. And then there's a whole set of revenue generating responsibilities, like going out and making sure that you can build relationships with partners and sponsors that will pay you for the opportunity to grow audiences or to tap into the audiences that you have, or to be associated with your brand, or to create content together that could be appealing to their audiences, as well as all of the kind of media distribution component to that. So that's the business of when you see the NBA G League on ESPN Plus, or on one of the NBC or ESPN networks, or when you see the NBA G League on Twitch, there's a business relationship behind that, and there's some exchange of value behind that, such that Twitch or ESPN buy the rights to exhibit that game on their channel or on their platform. And so there's a non-revenue generating set of responsibilities, and then there's a revenue generating set of responsibilities. And in this environment, there is the basketball operations responsibilities, which is how do we create a safe environment in the middle of COVID for players to play and compete? Because we don't have a league unless the players are playing. So how do we stand up our season? How do we scenario plan around that? What does the season look like? What does the competition look like? I've also added to my portfolio on the basketball side a brand new team. We just launched a new team in 6 months. And leagues don't own teams, Sarah, but we do.
You do, great.
And so I'm the quasi-team president of this new NBA G League team called Team Ignite, which is full of 18-year-old high school prospects who, were it not for the NBA's age rules, would be in the NBA right now because they're just that talented. And so this new team has been launched during my tenure, and we wrapped around this team all of the best things that you would want your son to have if they were going pro, or your daughter to have if they were going pro at 18. So it's an alternative to these young men who have a very strong talent. They're highly talented, and they may not want to spend a year in Australia or China playing overseas. They may want to be right here, particularly in these times. they may want to be right here. They may not want to spend 7 or 8 months in college, not particularly going to school, maybe not. That's a quasi requirement or not. They actually want to get started with their professional career, much like Venus and Serena were able to do, much like Coco Gauff, who we now see, or even Naomi Osaka in tennis, or the hordes of soccer, football athletes who go, to a professional career very early, and they earn a living based on their talent. So we've launched this team to cater to and focus on this select group of young men who have a talent, who should be able to professionalize their talent and leverage it at the age of 18, even though the NBA says, well, you got to be 19, and put the right elements around them. They have a scholarship so they can get their education. Even after their playing career is done, that scholarship is available to them. They get mentorship from NBA mentors. They have the ability to utilize their name, image, and likeness, which is something that they wouldn't be able to do playing in the college system. And many of those young men, Sarah, look like me. So it's a great opportunity to launch a team, I think, that makes an impact and that services people in communities that are like the communities that I grew up in, and that treat them like I would like to treat my children, or like I would like my children to be treated. So that social responsibility and mission-driven aspect to it is important to me personally, and is a big motivator.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad you brought that up, and I think it's no surprise, but this the issues of social impact and racial justice has become in some ways earlier this year it dominated the headlines more than what was happening in the bubble, right? So tell us if you can share some insights, like how were those conversations at the NBA, because in your role your team reports up to Adam Silver and the WNBA as well as I don't know if you call them like a sister organization, what the terminology is there, but like it's been a rough year. This week has been particularly difficult, right, with the Breonna Taylor news. You and I chatted a little bit about that yesterday. Can you share some of the insights about what you heard, and if you can, and what it means to you personally to be in this league during this moment in time?
Yeah, let me pick up that angle of the question, because anything else I told you, I'd have to kill you.
Okay, it sounds good.
So, personally, this has been a tumultuous time for me to be anywhere. just as a Black woman in these United States. Like, it's rough out here. And so for me to be anywhere right now would be challenging. Now, being at an organization like the NBA, I actually have a higher bar for some reason that I discovered about the NBA than I have about other places that I may have worked. And so coming into the NBA without the horrors that we now see unfold daily, including yesterday, and that sort of miscarriage of justice, in my opinion, I had an expectation that the NBA is a place that is progressive. I'm going to use as a term that was thrown out about the NBA that I kind of embraced and understood it to be. And so when I joined, that was my impressions, that those impressions lined up from a value perspective for me. And when I got there and then all of this mayhem started to occur, it landed on me very hard. And I had really high expectations of the league to kind of step into that moment, step into these times. And I don't know, lead, be an advocate, show everybody the way. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it was quite able to do that, although I think comparatively, if you want to compare it to other leagues, it is far ahead of any of the other leagues in the US and globally around issues of racial injustice, around equity, around access. And it's done many things over the last several months to not just say it, but to do it. Because you know, Sarah, I watch what you do, not what you say. And so I felt for a period of time that the NBA had let me down personally because of the expectations that I had of the organization coming into it. And I think that my bar may have been too high, but I'm not going to let it down. And I am pushing, not every day, but on a regular basis to help the NBA as an organization, as a league, kind of lift itself up to the place that where my expectations are. And we'll see if we get there. But it has landed on me hard, as I think it has landed on a number of people in and across this industry, as well as outside of sports, very hard. But I do have an expectation that the organization that I work for and, you know, spend a lot of my time at is going to step into and step up to the challenge. And that's one of the things at the NBA G League that we think we do a great job of. We are the league of opportunity, the G League. We are the league where you get your call up. That's what we call it. When you go from the G League to the NBA, you get your call up. And so just as I am doing that work within the NBA G League, I am pushing for the NBA to get its call up and to step into this moment and to step into this time and do even more than what it's already doing. But I can say genuinely that the work that the NBA has now shown is comparative to other leagues, far, 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 far better. But we shouldn't rest on that.
No. I mean, just knowing, you know, we've all learned a little bit more about you. I certainly have. Like, what's interesting, what I think is going to happen, like, your expectations have not yet been met, but I think they will be rising to your bar that's been set, right?
I hope so.
I think that's what's happening. That's what's going to happen. That's it. That's all there is. Well, we've got 10 minutes left. I promised the folks here if they had any questions. We want this to be interactive, so feel free to drop some questions in the chat. Get off of mute. Show your smile to Portia. She does like to know who she's chatting with. We've got I don't know if Pamela's still on, but Pamela, just a fun fact, she was one of the first developers for a women's basketball shoe, I think back in the 80s. don't know, Pam Vitalis. I think, oh, I don't want to name the brand because I may butcher it. So I may get it incorrect. I don't know if she's still on, but if anyone has any questions, if not, I've got a couple of fun ones, I hope, as we're waiting. So as a boss, right, you've got chief, you got that C-level title in your name. Do you ask for permission or do you beg forgiveness?
Good question. It depends. I mean, I do both. It really depends on the circumstance.
Okay.
And sometimes I do intentionally ask for forgiveness instead of asking for permission. And sometimes I just get it wrong and I just did something I shouldn't have and I have to ask for forgiveness. So I do a bit of both.
Okay. What about any quarantine binges? Anything you watched on any particular platform that no, none. Okay. Well, you know what? After everything you told us, you don't have time. I get that. And then Two Girls, you don't have time. How about the last song you downloaded?
I don't download songs.
Oh, or one you've been playing on repeat.
I listen to a lot of stuff that my girls listen to, that they stream. And I don't know the names of these. Like, honestly, I like beats. I don't know exactly what I'm listening to.
Okay, understood.
But if I like the beat, like my daughter was telling me the other day, I should ask her. We were in the car driving and there was some tune and I was sort of bobbing my head to it. And she says, oh, you like such and such. And I didn't know who such and such was. But apparently I like their music because when I'm with her, I seem to enjoy it. And it's the same artist. I don't know his or her name. But I don't know. I don't know what I'm listening to.
You're kind of just present and you got that in the background. All right, so we do have a couple questions. Let's see, Marla, if you've got one.
Okay, there we go. Had to unmute myself there. Hi, Portia. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for the conversation today. It's been really great.
Hi, Marla.
My question is, what advice would you give young girls who are interested in pursuing a career in a male-dominated industry?
What age are the girls?
Well, I mean, I have, a young girl, but I was thinking more about the Play Like a Girl demographic, which is middle school girls, right? And so if, any advice you might have that were to give them if they're interested in pursuing a career in a male-dominated industry like technology, any advice that you would give those, let's say, middle school age girls?
Yeah, I have a middle school age girl, so I can tell you what I tell my middle school age girl. And I had one who's now in high school. And I really, fortunately, I haven't spent a lot of time kind of categorizing things like male dominated, or I just haven't spent a lot of time doing that. And so even race, like they don't, like it's very freeing. They're very open. They have a growth mindset. It's very, so I don't try to put my sort of filter on them. Like I know that these fields may be male dominated, but that's not how I talk to them about it, because I don't want them to have that kind of filter, and they don't already have it. So I tend to talk to them about, all right, what do you think it's going to take to be in that field? What do you like? What are you passionate about? And I talk to my girls a lot, even at the middle school age, about their brand. Who do they want to be? What do they stand for? And so if they're interested in something that I understand to be male dominated, I don't really approach it in that way and try to segment it in that way. I try to figure out, okay, even knowing what I know, because as a mother and someone who's, this isn't my first rodeo out here, right? So I know that some of the things they're talking about are going to be tough, or some of the things that they're talking about or that they aspire to are going to be tough because they're a woman, or be tough because they're Black, or be tough for some other reason. But I don't really focus on that. I just try to help them understand that, what are your strengths? How are you going to lean into those? Because, doing what you're interested in doing is totally achievable, but you're going to have to put some time into it. And if you're strong at that and you like it, it's going to probably be easier for you to put that time into it to achieve what you're interested in. So I try not to like put my stuff on them, Marla.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That was a great answer. Thank you.
We got maybe one more for Erica. I think Erica had a question. That might be the last one for today.
Yeah. Hey, Portia and Sarah. Great. This has been fun. I feel like I've been eavesdropping on a personal conversation between the two of you. And Portia, I may have asked you this over the last few months, but what role has sports or organized activities played in the lives of your daughters, and how do you encourage them to get those lessons that you've gotten? And when you made those hard pivots or soft pivots, you didn't stop, you kept going. So how do you allow sports to translate that with your daughters?
Yeah, as I said with Marla's question, I try not to put my stuff on them, even the good stuff. Right? Like I try to be gentle in how I guide and direct them. And so I try not to put my biases and all the stuff that I bring with me, good or bad, onto them. Now, I feel passionately about sport and its value in the lives of young girls. I know what it's done for me, and I understand that it could do these same kinds of things for my daughters. And I try to express to them all the value in sport. I try to emulate for them through the career choices, through my participation on something like the Women's Sports Foundation. They know I'm here talking to young girls today. So I try to help them understand through my example that sports are important. I think they're important. They've given me a lot. I think it gives everyone else that participates in them a lot. I think it's particularly important for girls. It's provided me with self-confidence. I've learned how to win and lose. I've learned how to invest in something, build team, all of this stuff. And they listen. And some of it they pick up and some of it they don't. And some of it they'll get later and some of it they won't. And one of the two has picked up on it. And one of my two daughters is what I think is a phenomenal athlete. Like she's a far better athlete than I was at her age, like by a margin. And she's an athlete. That's a part of her brand. That's how she defines herself. She understands what that means. But my younger daughter has a totally different set of things that interest her. And I can't get Cameron, going out for a nature walk is like tough, right? Cameron is just different and her interests are different, her passions are different. She understands that sports is an important part and has been for most of my life, important to me. My husband was a college athlete and sports are important to him. I coach basketball teams, he coaches track team. Like my younger daughter gets all of that and she has voted vehemently to go the other way. Now, one thing I have required of her, because I do know the importance of it, you gotta do something with sport. Now, I don't care what it is. I'm not gonna pick it for you, but you don't have a choice to just completely sit on the sidelines. And so she's tried soccer, she's tried tennis, she's played basketball, she did competitive swimming for a period of time. I'm missing gymnastics. So she's been exposed and had an opportunity to do a number of different things. Nothing stuck, Eric. Nothing stuck. And that's okay. That's okay. Next year when we're back in school physically, she's gonna pick a sport. She's gonna have to participate in something. I don't care what it is, but she's gonna have to do that. She's gonna have to do that while she's living in my house until she graduates. And then after that, whatever floats your boat.
Portia, we're gonna wrap in a bit, but would love to maybe in the future have you come back on and we could pick one topic, because there is such a richness to your whole story and your life that is beautiful. So with that, I will turn it over to Marla.
Yeah, Thanks, guys. Special thank you to Portia and Sarah. Thank you guys so much for making this Play Like a Girl event so impactful. Thank you to everybody for joining us today. We do have a giveaway to round out our final Play Like a Girl live e-series. Receiving a limited edition Play Like a Girl cotton tote is Janae Blackburn. Congratulations. I'll send you a private message here in a minute so I can get your mailing address. Again, thank you to all for joining us.
I love that.
Yeah. Thank you to all for joining us. We are offering a 25% discount at the Play Like a Girl gift shop as well. You can receive your discount by using the promo code SUMMER25 at checkout. So visit our website for that. We really appreciate the Play Like a Girl community. Please stay connected. Go to our calendar at iplaylikeagirl.org events and see our upcoming events. One quick one to mention is our upcoming Mix, Mingle, and Make a Difference. It is a mixology class and cocktail party. It's on September 30th. It is free. We'll have live music. Please RSVP today. Space is limited. All right. And please remember that making a gift to continue programs like this and to change a girl's life through STEM and sport is very important. Giving is easy. As I mentioned in the beginning, all you need to do is text at iplaylikeagirl to 44-321 to give. And with that, thank you to everyone, and please have a great night.